And we're back live, broadcasting this Sunday morning on our weekly live broadcast. And we're just checking a few things as we get started here. Okay, so again, this is a live broadcast we do every Sunday morning, and for 20 minutes or so. And the idea is to talk about various things one can do to improve their balance in their life and relationships and so forth, using things that have been around for a long time. We've talked about Dr. Mao Xingni's book, Live Your Ultimate Life, a few months back. Talked about Feng Shui from Dr. Nancy Santo Pietro's book on Feng Shui and health. In the last few weeks, we've been talking about using sympathy, empathy, and compassion to strengthen your health and relationships. So we'll continue on that subject today. Okay, let me do a little review of the ideas of sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Okay. And just a reminder, all these sessions I do are live, so there's no editing or pre-videoing of the session, so we're live. And you may, if you wish, comment on the page, on the chat section, or make comments on the YouTube channel video. And I'd like to ask you to, if you like the videos and the stuff that's on the channel, to subscribe to the channel and make comments, which will help also. I think we've had, I can't remember how many views on the channel over the years, quite a few, and as you look at the channel you can see what the most popular videos are, and all the different subjects we've done lots of different kind of subjects, that's for sure. Okay, anyway, back to a discussion about sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Alright, sympathy is when you see somebody or some situation where there's some distress or pain, or something seems to be not going so well for somebody. All right, now when you see something like that, and just picture in your mind a typical occasion where you see something that's in distress or someone that's in distress, your mind kind of automatically goes to experiences you've had in the past that might be similar. So you start kind of guessing as to what's going on. And the main point is that sympathy, you're kind of guessing because you don't really know what's going on. You don't exactly know what the emotion is the person is experiencing. It's only an educated guess based on your experiences. So if you've had an experience similar to what they are having, it might be pretty close to the truth. If you've never had that experience, then it's probably not too close to the truth. All right, but anyway, so the first thing that wakes us up is we see somebody in distress or in pain. All right, now the next step to get a little closer to the truth would be using empathy. Now, empathy is where you try to discover more about what really is going on and what emotions are actually happening in that other person. And it doesn't have to be a person; it could be an animal or any sentient being, for that matter, anything that feels. Okay, so one of the obvious ways to find out what's going on is you go over and talk to the person and listen to what they tell you. And the important thing is you want to listen to what they're saying. So as they talk and express what's going on and perhaps express their emotions verbally, if not with body language, you'll get a much better idea of what's really going on. So if somebody's had a relationship distress, they'll be talking about that relationship to you, and you're listening. You'll see some body motion, some verbal stuff going on, so you'll know more what's going on. And it could be any kind of emotions from the broad spectrum, of course. Could be sadness or even joy, depending on what's going on. So anyway, so the empathy process, you're listening to the person, and the main point is to listen, and then you actually will start feeling the same emotion. So if they're feeling joyful, you'll actually start feeling the same thing, assuming you're listening and not kind of outside reality and trying to give them advice, which is probably the worst thing one could do. So you're actually just listening and observing what's going on, and you'll start feeling the emotions that in fact they're having. All right, so that's the main thing you're looking for, is that you can actually feel their emotions, and then it kind of is almost in a kind of magical circle kind of thing. The person that you're listening to will realize that you are in fact listening, and that's probably the best thing that could happen to them, because if somebody's experienced some emotional event, they want to share that, at least subconsciously. And so somebody listening to them is a great thing, even though they might not necessarily realize what's going on, because this is all going on, in our wiring of our body and brains. So there's some healing going on and sharing of the emotions. Okay, so that is the empathy. All right, now that all sounds all good and well. However, you wouldn't want to continue feeling those emotions for a long time. Which in a practical manner you really couldn't anyway, because most emotions are fairly fleeting. Your brain might be active, thinking about things, but the actual emotion probably is more fleeting than we might imagine. But in any event, say you were a good example is like a doctor or a nurse. When you go to visit them, you'll often notice that they seem kind of impartial and even impassionate, because they've learned, if not being trained, that they can't hold on to, like, say there's a pain going on. You don't want the doctor to be feeling pain while he's diagnosing you and trying to treat you, or the same thing with the nurse. So you don't want them to hang on to that pain. Now, they might maybe correctly, during the empathy part, notice that, there's pain in his hand, and the doctor may even feel a little bit of pain, just a momentary little thing to confirm what's going on, and you'll sense the emotion of the patient. But you don't want that to keep on going, because that'll interfere with the healing process and the ability of the listener or the doctor to make some good calls. So what happens is you move on to the compassion part. So the compassion is, you not only recognize somebody's in distress, you've listened to them, so you know more exactly what it really is, the truth of the matter, and you're actually feeling what the emotion is, or the pain or distress, in fact, at least momentarily. All right, now, in addition to that, and compassion, you can now do something about it, because you know what the truth of the matter is, you know what the pain is, the distress, you've heard the person, their story, and they've noticed that you're, in fact, listening, so there's some healing and sharing going on that. So now you're able, knowing a lot about what's going on, to be able to help in some manner. Now, the person might actually ask you for help, which is actually kind of rare, except perhaps in a professional setting where the doctor would be asked to help, or the nurse, or the psychiatrist, or the clergyman, or whatever. But normally in just day-to-day things, people aren't generally going to ask you for help. They just want to be heard. All right, so what can you do in the compassion mode to give some help? Well, the biggest help is just listening. So you can continue listening, and that will be probably one of the biggest helps you can give in healing and alleviating distress and pain. Now, you could also do physical touching if that's appropriate, because one of the main things of humans, if not all feeling beings, is the healing of touch. And in late days or years, we probably may be doing less than that than in previous years. But studies have shown that the touch is an important part. And it used to be that you could just, in an office or a friendly friend encounter, you could touch somebody's arm, touch their shoulder, and nobody think much about it. In fact, it was very beneficial. Nowadays, you got to be more careful because somebody could, accuse you of bad motives or something. So, but anyway, if the situation is appropriate, you can do touch. Of course, you continue listening. The contact, eye-to-eye contact, the nearness of the people, the other person. And then there's literally and if there's some physical thing you could do to help them. If they're in pain, obviously you would do something to help that, or some injury, for example. Psychological pain, the listening again is the important part. And just your being calm in the compassionate mode and being with them in a calm manner is actually doing something. And of course, there's the sense of traditional prayer or meditation, which is just being self-aware and a sense of stillness will help the situation. All right, so that's compassion. So sympathy is you recognize something's going on, you don't know exactly what it is. Empathy, you find out more about what's going on and start feeling the emotion or the feeling of the person you're listening to. And then compassion, you've recognized it, you've narrowed down what's going on, you've listened, and now you can try to do something to alleviate the pain, if at all possible. And again, listening is one of the most important things, and just allowing the person to be heard. Okay, now, last week we went over a little exercise, and I recommended that you could try a kind of a traditional awareness exercise that you do for 20 minutes a day for 20 days. So 20 for 20 days, 20 minutes for 20 days. And I'll go through that again. And it's a sense of kind of like a meditation, being still, being aware, and listening to yourself in a sense. So what you do for our 20 minutes each day is you get yourself a comfortable place that's quiet and you won't be disturbed. Most usually it's a comfortable chair, and you want to sit in that chair in a relaxed way, but not too relaxed where you might fall asleep. So you might want to sit up on the edge of the chair and keep your body kind of upright but relaxed. You probably do not want to lay down because that will tend to allow you to fall asleep while we're doing this. So most typically you'd be sitting up in a chair. And then the next step is just monitor, try to get yourself calm. One way I like to do it is do a little exercise where you start at the top of your head and then slowly visualize down through all of your muscles of your body, of which you have about 640 or so, and just slowly go down through your body, just noticing if your muscles are relaxed or tense, or where you may feel some pain in a joint or an organ. Not that you do anything about it, but you're just observing. So you're slowly going down from your head, your neck, your shoulders, down your arms and your elbows and wrists and hands and fingers. And then go back up, go down your trunk, your chest, abdomen area, down through your hips and upper legs, knees. I'm going kind of quickly, but you would do this a little slower. And then go down your legs, down to your ankles and feet. And then you do the same thing in reverse. So let's just start from your feet and slowly go up the body, back up to your head, just observing where you feel relaxed or tense, any organs or any joints that might have some pain or muscle pain. Again, you don't do anything about it. You're just observing and then moving on to the next area of the body. Okay, so that helps you to get relaxed. And then also, you can do little breathing relaxation techniques. Just take a nice relaxed breathing and see how, if you can extend the exhaling and the inhaling a little longer than you normally would, just to get your body a little more relaxed and your breathing more relaxed. Okay, so I'll have you pause this video right now and just practice for a minute or so the technique of going from head to toe and back to head slowly, observing your muscles and joints and organs and your breathing. And then as soon as you're done with that, restart the video and we'll continue. Okay, so we'll pause here for a minute or so. Okay, we're back. So you've relaxed your muscles and joints, and you've observed any discomfort in your own body as well as things that are relaxed. Okay, now the next step is we're going to practice the ideas of the sympathy, empathy, and compassion. All right, so once again, you're in your comfortable chair, seated comfortably, breathing nice and relaxed, and I'll have you close your eyes, and I'll go through what you could do for this exercise. Okay, so first of all, you are relaxed, and you're going to picture in your mind's eye a person or a situation where you observe some sort of distress going on or some sort of pain. There's something going on in the person. Could be an animal for that matter as well. But in any event, in your mind, you're picturing something going on where there's some pain or distress. So just picture that in your mind's eye. All right, now, as you're picturing that, your mind will automatically start thinking up, trying to figure out what's going on. It will try to, in a real sense, guess what you're seeing. So if you're seeing somebody in pain, your mind might automatically try to figure out, well, do they have a broken bone? How did that happen? All kinds of different scenarios. So, and these are all guesses based on things that have happened to you, most likely. So they're just guesses, but you start to be concerned about the person and their pain or distress. All right, now there's very little you can do at this stage because you don't really know exactly what's happening. You don't know what kind of emotions are happening. You might see somebody crying. You don't know if they're crying in pain or crying in joy. So you don't know. Okay, so the next step is to go a little farther, and we're going to go into the idea of empathy. Okay, so again, we have in your mind's eye, you're observing the person that's in distress or pain. All right, now we're going to imagine that we're going to talk to them. Well, the better words, actually, we're going to listen to them. So we approach the person, get a little closer to them, and we listen to them talk to us in whatever the situation might be. So just imagine in your mind's eye, you're getting closer to the situation, and now imagine that the person starts talking and you listen. So you're now listening to what they tell you. And they're going to be describing what's going on, maybe directly or indirectly. You'll notice some body motion, that you might pick up some clues as to what's going on. You'll notice some facial expressions, and you'll certainly be hearing them express to you more exactly what's going on. All right, so now just pick from what you've heard in your mind's eye from the person, just pick one of the ideas that seems to make the most sense as to what's going on, whatever that may be. All right, now as you get that closer sense of what's really going on, you may actually feel in that emotion that person has transferred to you. Or you may, or if it's a painful situation, you may literally feel a little pain in the same area that they're feeling pain in. So that's the empathy part, that you're actually going into them in a sense, and you're now feeling their emotion and feeling an actual pain. All right, so just imagine that in your mind's eye just for a second or so, that you're actually feeling, you're understanding what's going on because you've listened to them, and now you're actually feeling their emotion or their distress. Okay, now we'll continue on to the third part, which is the compassionate. Okay, so now we know more exactly what's going on, if not precisely what's going on with the person. We've actually felt the emotion or the distress or pain they may be having. Now we want to let that go in our body so that we're not in continual pain or continual distress, and we want to do something to alleviate their pain or distress. All right, now the best way we can do that is just to continue listening to that person. So let's just continue in your mind's eye. You're still with that person. You felt their pain or their distress. Okay, now you're going to kind of let that go in your body, but you're going to continue listening. So just continue listening to this conversation that they're having with you in your mind's eye. Now you're just listening primarily. You're not giving any advice about anything. You're just listening. So just for a few seconds, just imagine that in your mind, where the person continues talking and you continue listening. Okay, now as they continue talking and you're listening, there's some sense of healing going on in reality, that they realize you are actually paying attention to them, you're listening, you have some concern, so there's a real healing going on in them to alleviate the distress. All right, now let's imagine in your mind's eye that the situation is that it would be allowable or permissible for you to actually touch the person gently. So you could hold the hand, touch them on the arm, sit closer to them, stand closer to them. Just imagine that the situation is such that would be an okay thing to do. So just imagine that for a few seconds, that you get closer, do some gentle touching if permissible, and just imagine that. Okay, now so there's a little more alleviating of distress, because we all want to be touched, and the touching, it does do some biological healing and alleviating of pain. You can think of that when you were a child. Just imagine your mother comforting you when you're hurt or in some mental, emotional state. The sense of touch is always going to be healing. So, and that's going to happen until the day you die. So, the sense that you're closer to the person, you're still listening, and you're able to touch is alleviating some of that distress. So that's the part of the compassion that we want to get to. All right. Okay, so that's our 3 stages, and if you had your eyes closed, you can open them at this point. And so anyway, so we've went through sympathy, where we recognize something's going on, but we don't know exactly what it is. We went into empathy, where we now investigated and listened to the person so we can actually feel what's going on and the emotion. And then we move on to compassion, where you actually do something about it. More listening, physical touch, physical help if there was an injury, for example, going on. Okay, so there's something that you actually are doing, an act of doing in compassion. Okay, now there is some caveats, some things we need to watch out for in this process of being compassionate. And some people might say it's loving kindness, but in any event, you're associating emotions, you recognize emotions from the other person, you're feeling it, and then you're actually doing something about it. Okay, now, let's imagine a situation where, say you notice somebody is hurt, physically hurt. Say they're rubbing their arm or holding their jaw, or there's something going on where they've been physically harmed. Not serious at this point, but just something's going on. Okay, so you don't know what's happened. You don't know if they've fallen down, but there's something, you're pretty certain there's something going on that they've been physically hurt because you've had that same thing happen. So that's a sympathy. All right, so then you move in closer and listen to the person. He says, oh, yeah, my jaw hurts. Oh, man, it's so bad. And then you still don't know exactly what's happening other than the jaw hurts. And then he might say, oh, yeah, my neighbor hit me. I don't know why he hit me. Okay, so now you're getting a bigger picture that his neighbor, for whatever reason, hit him in the jaw. Now, you don't know if it was an accident. You don't know if it was on can't even think of the right word, that he did it purposefully or it was an accident. You don't know. You know the guy's got a hurt jaw and his neighbor did it. At least he's claiming that. All right. So now you're starting to get a little clearer picture, and you may even start feeling the emotion of the person, the physical pain, the emotional pain that somebody hit them. Okay, so now we want to move a little closer to finding the truth, and you continue listening, and the person you're listening to says, for example, yeah, I was out with my dog, and the dog got loose, and it went over and jumped up on my neighbor, and it didn't hurt him or anything, but my neighbor apparently is afraid of dogs, and he was really upset. And in the process of getting the dog away and managing his own distress, he hit me in the jaw, he was just mad at me for allowing the dog to get away. So my neighbor hit me right in the jaw. Okay. All right. Now we know more precisely what's going on in the situation. The neighbor hit him because the dog jumped up on him, and he was apparently mad and hit him. Okay. All right. Now, so we want to move on to compassion so that we can do something about it. But there's a difficulty here. Is our brain will always try to figure out explanations for things, even though we don't really know the explanation. We might guess again through our sympathy idea where we've had something happen to us. Okay, so in this case, we know the neighbor hit the guy, and he was apparently mad, and that's why he hit him. So our brain will now also try to find fault, or we will judge the situation. Okay, so we may, depending on our experiences, we may judge that the neighbor was wrong. He should not have hit my friend over that situation. So we're automatically judging the neighbor should not have done that. No way, Jose, should he have done that. So now we're in our minds judging that the neighbor is wrong. And then conversely, that our friend is right because he didn't do anything wrong except maybe, accidentally letting the dog go. So now we've made some judgments that the neighbor is bad, our friend is good, or at least our friend is neutral. All right, so that's not too good because now, rightly or wrongly, because we don't know the situation really of the neighbor. We don't know his emotion. We don't know his story because we didn't do our compassionate or our empathy with him. We're only judging. So that is the difficulty, is if we're trying to do the loving kindness and the compassionate listening, we don't want to judge either the person we're listening to or somebody else who's involved in that situation. We want to not judge at all, and that's very difficult. So that's one of the things we have to work on. All right, so let's just do a very short practice on that one. Okay, so let's imagine that very scenario, and you can close your eyes here, and we're all relaxed and breathing gently, and we've listened to our neighbor, our friend, and he's explaining that his jaw hurts, and we get that, and that he's in some distress, and he tells us that his dog accidentally got loose, jumped up on his neighbor got mad. He thinks his neighbor got mad, and that's why he hit him, he thinks. Of course, we haven't heard the neighbor's side. So imagine that situation now in your mind's eye, that your friend has told you all this, and maybe you can even see the neighbor. He's still, across the fence there next door, and you can just see the neighbor, and maybe you can even see the dog there just sitting quietly by our friend's side. All right, so just imagine that scenario. So you're kind of in tune with your friend from what he's told you. But now see if you can think of that scenario without judging the neighbor. Okay, take a few seconds to imagine that. Okay. Yeah, it's not too easy, is it? Because our mind automatically wants to figure out not only what was going on with our friend, but what was going on with our neighbor. And we really can't go any farther than sympathy for the neighbor at this point, because we haven't talked to them. We haven't sensed what the emotion was. So all we have is guessing. So that's the reason you want to watch out for judging things based on sympathy or even just on empathy. But especially sympathy. You don't want to be judging from things you observe where there's some distress going on. You don't want to judge that on either party, either the party that you're listening to or some other party that might be involved in the situation. So that's the thing for today, is to try to not judge, especially don't